These convicted individuals didn't cry when they were caught. They didn't flinch when they were sentenced. Some even smiled, laughed, as families shattered around them. These weren't just killers. They were cold-blooded performers in a courtroom horror show, and what they did after the crime was somehow even worse.
19-year-old Christopher Plaskin uttered just 5 words in court.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Demurely declining the offer to speak about the heinous stabbing death of 16-year-old classmate Marin Sanchez, whom authorities say he killed inside their high school on prom day 2 years ago because she wouldn't go to the prom with him, with savage fury.
Christopher was just 16 when he killed his classmate Marin in a high school hallway. Rejected after asking her to prom, he attacked with a knife, showing no emotion throughout the trial. His silence and lack of remorse haunted the courtroom. He stared forward blankly, barely blinking, as though none of it mattered. Even when the prosecution laid out the full horror of what he had done, Christopher barely reacted. Not once did he apologize or look at Marin's family.
Now, 2 days past her 20th birthday, Alyssa Bustamante is still recognizable as the teenager arrested in the fall of 2009 for the murder of 9-year-old neighbor Elizabeth Olton. If convicted of first-degree murder, Bustamante could not have been executed because of her age. Under Missouri law, the only other option was life in prison without parole.
All right, you ready to call your first witness?
Alyssa's crime was perhaps the most chilling. She was just 15 when she strangled a 9-year-old girl and buried her in a shallow grave. In court, she screamed that it was all her fault during the testimony of someone close to the victim's family. The judge was told to give her life and an extra 71 years, one for every year the victim would never live. Her outburst did nothing to sway the decision. It only made it clear how deeply twisted the act had been. Alyssa's case offered no easy answers. A teenage girl, seemingly normal, but beneath the surface was something else entirely. When she confessed, she didn't just admit what she had done, she described it in detail. She'd actually dug a grave in advance, waited for the perfect moment, and killed a child she barely knew. The court heard every word, and during testimony, she snapped. "It was all my fault," she screamed, almost as if she were demanding punishment. But it wasn't guilt. It felt more like frustration. Frustration that she'd been caught, that the mask had slipped and the monster had been revealed.
I would give my life for Austin. I loved him a lot.
A teenager's inability to control his anger led to the tragic death of a toddler and a life-altering prison sentence. In March 2013, 16-year-old Dylan Shoemaker was entrusted with caring for his girlfriend's 23-month-old son, Austin Smith. Frustrated by the child's crying, Shoemaker violently assaulted the toddler, resulting in fatal injuries. He admitted to slapping the child, banging his head on the floor, and punching him repeatedly. Shoemaker was convicted of second-degree murder and initially sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. An appellate court later reduced his sentence to 18 years to life, making him eligible for parole after serving 18 years. The court upheld his conviction, emphasizing the severity of his actions. The case drew attention to issues of teenage parenting, anger management, and the responsibilities involved in childcare. It also highlighted the legal system's approach to juvenile offenders committing heinous crimes. Dylan Shoemaker's case serves as a tragic example of how uncontrolled emotions and lack of maturity can lead to irreversible consequences, emphasizing the need for proper guidance and support for young individuals in caregiving roles. Then there was Nicholas, another teenager, this time from Florida. He shot a police officer who was responding to a call. Nicholas was caught quickly, and the evidence was overwhelming. But in court, he didn't show an ounce of regret. He laughed. He smirked. Even when the officer's family was present, even when it was clear what he'd taken from them, he acted like it was a game. His sentence, life without parole, was met with another smirk. When his attorneys later tried to get it reduced, the court refused. Later, lawyers would try to paint him as a child who could be rehabilitated, but there was no remorse in his eyes, just calculation.
As soon as T.J. Lane walked in, he was executing his plan, taking off his button-down shirt to reveal this, a white T-shirt with the word killer scribbled on it, showing it off with a smug smile on his face.
T.J. didn't hide his monster. He wore it, Literally, a t-shirt with the word killer, bold and unapologetic. He revealed it in court, smiled while doing it, and insulted grieving parents as they cried just feet away. This wasn't a breakdown or a plea for help. It was pride. The kind of pride that tells you no prison can change someone like that. When he was sentenced to life without parole, he didn't flinch. He barely blinked. There was no remorse, no regret, only satisfaction. Some of the most chilling stories weren't even about the crime itself, but the aftermath. The way the accused responded when finally cornered.
Those who might seek to find fault with you. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. Thank you for performing a very important public service by serving as jurors in this case. Your jury service is complete, and you're free to go, and the bailiffs will help you out that way. Thank you.
Jennifer had been America's hiccup girl, the oddity everyone wanted to interview. But when the cameras turned off and she was facing life behind bars, the truth came out. Her courtroom breakdown, the yelling, the tears. It felt less like regret and more like someone used to attention, now desperate to reclaim it. She was convicted anyway. Another name added to the growing list of lives unraveled by violence.
The sentence that was agreed upon by the parties. Ms. Halseth, in accordance to the laws of the state of Nevada, you're going to be adjudicated guilty on count 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Count 2, first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Count 3, first-degree arson. Count 4, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 5, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 6, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 7, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 8, conspiracy to commit robbery. And count 9, robbery with use of a deadly weapon. In addition to the $25 administrative assessment fee, the $150 DNA testing fee, the $3 DNA assessment fee, you're going to be ordered to pay $2,125 in extradition fees. You're also going to be ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution to victims of crime, and that'll be done jointly and severally with the codependent. On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. On count 2, you're going to be sentenced to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 20 years has been served, plus a consecutive 24 to 60 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for the deadly weapon enhancement. Count 2 is ordered to run concurrent to count 1. On count 3, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 2. On count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. On count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4. On count 6, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and that's ordered to run concurrent to count 5. On count 7, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and that's ordered to run concurrent to count 6. On count 8, you're going to be sentenced to 28 to 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, that's ordered to run concurrent to count 7.
Even when remorse is shown, it's often too late to matter. Sierra cried during sentencing. She said she was sorry. She begged her family for forgiveness. But the man she helped kill, her own father, was gone, burned and buried in the desert like he didn't matter. And standing next to her, Aaron grinned. He didn't cry. He didn't apologize. He glared at the victim's family like it was all a joke. No apology from Sierra could erase the look on his face.
For extended supervision. I know that that is something that is reserved for the most serious of cases, and I believe that this case rises to that level.
Sometimes it's the families who show you the real damage. When Shondell was sentenced, his reaction was expected. He'd been cold throughout, smirking, joking, even as the victim's mother sat in the gallery. But what came after was worse. The courtroom erupted. He cursed the judge, had to be pepper sprayed. But his family joined in. They hurled insults at the grieving mother. "I hate you," they shouted. "God's the judge." as if the courtroom had no authority, as if justice itself was optional. It was a final slap in the face to a family that had already lost everything. And that's the thread that runs through all these stories. The loss, the finality, a life taken and no remorse in return. Shondell didn't seem to care. He smiled at the victim's mother as if mocking her grief. When he was sentenced, he exploded. He cursed the judge, had to be restrained with pepper spray, and his family started yelling at the victim's mother. One of them shouted, "I hate you," and while another declared only God could judge. It wasn't just the crime that shocked people. It was everything that followed. The complete absence of remorse and the eruption of chaos in a place meant for justice. The courtroom is supposed to be a place for justice, but sometimes it becomes a stage where the worst in people is put on display, not hidden, but flaunted. And for every sentence read, for every gavel slammed down, the pain remains. Not just for the victims, but for everyone forced to watch as the mask drops and the truth walks free inside a prison cell.